Attention, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order, 7 p.m. of the Stratford Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission. Now, we'd like to hear from the applicant at Teakwood Lane before we go into the public hearing, if needed.
Chair, Commissioners, good to be before you tonight. Chris Russo with Russo & Rizzio LLC. Offices at 10 Saskill Hill Road in Fairfield. Here on behalf of the applicant, we're going to withdraw this current application, but because we've spent a considerable amount of hours, the Commission has spent a considerable amount of hours hearing testimony, I just wanted to kind of update you as to where we are and why we're requesting the withdrawal. So as you know, this was referred out for a third-party review. Land Tech had reviewed our application. We've actually had a call with Land Tech going over their comments, and which really were in kind of two buckets. There was wetland comments, and then there was engineering comments. Our consultant has prepared a response for the wetland comments, but there were also some engineering comments that would require more work, including test holes, and that's going to take some time. And we are unfortunately at the end of the statutory time frame to be able to extend. We couldn't request a continuance tonight, is what I'm saying, to January. So because we are at the end of that time frame, we are going to withdraw tonight with the intent to reapply as soon as we're able with the application. We are taking the comments from your third-party reviewer very seriously. I can tell you that there's going to be some revisions to the plans. Likely a lot will be removed from the application just based on the comments that we've received. So it will be revised per their comments. But, you know, again, due to the time frame, we have to withdraw. But we hope to be back before you very soon. At that time, and we've been talking with staff and the town attorney today, we would respectfully request at that time a partial reduction in the application fee, but that, as I understand from the town attorney, would not be something that would come up until we actually reapply. But I just wanted to kind of give an explanation. Everybody spent a lot of time working on this for it to just be abruptly withdrawn. But it's fully our intent to reapply to you as soon as we can, basically picking up where we left off with a revised plan, but also response to the comments that we received from your third-party reviewer.
Thank you, Attorney Russo. At this time, I'm going to ask for a motion to cancel the remainder of the public hearing, seeing that there's nothing to rebut. And we'll all do this again next time, I guess.
I have a question for the chair.
Yes, sir.
Because the applicant, I mean, the public is here, can we give them the right, if they want to speak, or any comments about the
Well,
area
it wouldn't be fair, Commissioner Waite, because they withdrew it, so it would be prejudicial. So, that's, okay, so I need a motion to cancel the public hearing. Motion by Mr. Karipsky, seconded by Dr. Chess. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Happy holidays, and hopefully see you very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next order of business. Well, they could stay if they want. It's in here somewhere, yeah, right there. Okay, next order of business, approval of minutes from the last meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. We have a
I'll second it.
Second it by Joe. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We don't get it. All right, we're going to take this one next. I'll take.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's okay with this one.
Yeah, I think.
If you want to pause it.
Okay, next on the agenda. Paul Malika. See here, Attorney Schofield.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. We continue our 6.5-year saga on this property, and when we were here last, the thought was that my wife and I have acquired this property at 350 Whippoorwill and behind, previously owned by Shayna Wolf. As the commission may recall, back earlier this year, it was before this body on a proceedings that were attendant the enforcement order. And at that time, the commission essentially revoked the permit and denied any enforcement. We filed an appeal just to preserve the status quo. We were concerned that with no enforcement in place that there could be some type of other development proposed there. And Attorney Sullivan and I have been in communication about this, as well as with Ms. Kerrigan. And we're working toward a resolution, and the linchpin, I guess, of that resolution was for us, as the new owner, to essentially apply. It's a bit of a square peg in a round hole. We're not asking to do any regulated activity. We're simply asking to do modest restoration that was proposed by Steve Danzer, who's been out to the property a couple of times, and subject to negotiations with the town to agree on the metes and bounds of a conservation easement and so forth. So that's been submitted, and obviously I'll answer any questions, but I don't really have a presentation or anything on that. But it's the way we thought was the simplest way to resolve a long-standing 6.5-year problem that has plagued not only the commission, but me and Mr. Owen, who's behind me, and others, I'm sure.
Commissioners have any questions? Pat?
So this would just be you authorizing me to resolve the litigation based on the documentation that's been filed by Attorney Schofield.
I need a motion to allow Attorney Sullivan to... Yeah, they didn't want to. Yeah, there were. So I need a motion for Attorney Sullivan to enter into...
I'll make a motion to resolve the...
Seconded by Dr. Chess. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney.
Happy holidays.
Next on the agenda, JRB Holding. Attorney Bellis.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. You may recall that I did a presentation for the wetlands on Peters Lane, and that I think that the board wanted a resolution before voting on it. That resolution was prepared either by Attorney Sullivan and reviewed by Kelly, and I believe you have it in front of you. So I'm here to ask you to act on that resolution.
Everyone had a chance to review the resolution? Any questions from the commissioners? So I'm going to ask a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second by Mr. Blake. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I thank you all.
Thank you, Attorney Bellis.
You're welcome. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a nice Christmas.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. All right. You want to do the clear cutting right now? We'll do that.
Yeah, that one, they've asked us to move on to the next one.
He's not here anymore. The next on the agenda will be the clear cutting, but the applicant is not here, and he asked us to table this until next month.
As you all can see in your memo, I had a substantial amount of staff comments, so it was largely incomplete. But I did keep it in the memo anyway, so they'll be back in January.
Okay, so we need a motion to table? Second?
Question.
Yes, sir.
So when they come back in January, will they have addressed these? Have they seen this already, or is this going to be?
Yes, I've emailed this to their attorney already, and they said that they're working on all these comments.
Thank you.
So we have a motion, we need a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Table till next month. Next on the agenda, 2022-21, 1,300 square foot commercial building on Main Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. Benjamin Proto, Attorney Proto, on behalf of the applicant. We were here last month on a presentation. This is the gas station on Main Street in front of Sikorsky. We are back to discuss any issues. I know there is an issue regarding a demolition that occurred on the property that was done pursuant to a demolition permit that was issued by the town of Stratford on December 15th. That particular application was involved probably over the period of 6+ weeks back and forth with the building department that required a number of things of the building department, most notably sign-offs from Aquarion. There is a septic system on the site, I understand, that had to be drained, and asbestos removal from the building. My understanding is that normally that application would be sent to Ms. Kerrigan for sign-off. That never occurred. For whatever reason, that never occurred. Whether it was the failure of the building department to forward it to Ms. Kerrigan, or the failure of the building department to inform the demo contractor that it needed a sign-off. But if it did need a sign-off, the building department never should have approved the application and issued the demolition permit. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, the building department failed to properly follow its own regulations and issued a demolition permit to our demolition contractor, who was unaware that we had an inland wetlands application pending, and once the demolition permit was issued, the demolition occurred on the property. It was done all according to proper code, proper procedure, and as such, the building and the canopy are now removed from that property.
Even though you were issued a demolition permit, you didn't have an inland wetlands permit to perform that work, and the site is now unstable, and I did not observe any silt fencing. So that was, the demolition was part of your inland wetlands application, and you don't have a permit to do that from inland wetlands.
I understand that, and the permit nor the application would normally require your sign-off. It does not have your sign-off. The town of Stratford should not have issued that demolition permit without your sign-off. The town of Stratford failed to properly follow its procedures, whether it was the building department forwarding it to you or the building department informing my client's contractor to get your sign-off, or not doing either and the application being returned without your signature. This is not on wetlands. This is on the building department not doing what it should have done. And our building demo contractor, not knowing that there was a wetlands application, because there was no reason for them to know there was a wetlands application, because they had been going back and forth with this with the building department for 6 months, and the building department should have known there was a wetlands application, there was a wetlands issue, and never once brought it up to the demolition contractor. So while I understand your position, and I don't disagree with your position, the fault lies not with the applicant or the applicant's demolition contractor. The fault lies with the building department and its failure to follow its procedures, and issued a demolition permit that said you can demolish the building.
So that allows you to violate the inland wetlands regulations? I'm not understanding.
Whether it allows us to violate the inland wetlands regulations, the issue is not whether it does that. The issue is whether the permit should have been issued. Without the permit, we couldn't have demolished the building. The permit should not have been issued without the wetland sign-off. You did not sign off on it for whatever reason, most notably because it was never given to you. So the question is whether or not there was an intent to violate any regulation or any statute. There was clearly no intent to do so.
But that's part of your inland wetlands permit application.
I understand it's part of our application. What you don't want to seem to acknowledge is the failure of the building department to do what it was supposed to do, which was have your signature on an application. Again, not your fault, not your department's fault.
We're not the building department, we're the Inland Wetlands Commission here.
I understand
so let's talk
that. So
about
the building department should not have issued a demolition permit and said, you can go demolish that building, thank you very much, you're in full compliance. That's what they said.
But you aren't in full compliance with the Inland Wetlands regulations, and that's why we're here tonight. So
I
let's
understand that.
focus on
And
that.
so the question becomes as to whether intent matters.
I don't think so.
I
You-
disagree.
Yeah, you are an attorney, and I think you understand that you have an inland wetlands permit, and you decided not to go forward with your inland wetlands permit and wait for your permit to be
I was unaware
issued.
of it, unfortunately, all of last week. I was in bed with COVID and the flu. So I was unaware of it and that the building department had done that. I do believe intent matters. And intent matters into whether or not you are looking at imposing any penalty. And if you're looking to impose a penalty, there's a difference between a malicious action, a negligent action, or an unintended action that was allowed by another governmental entity which failed to do its job.
Chair, I have a question. Are you required to have a site supervisor before anything takes place to make sure all the proper paperwork has been taken care of? I mean, usually on a construction site, you have somebody who
We did that.
actually has to make sure before anything takes place, every single piece of paper is signed off on.
And when and it's also the responsibility of every department in this town, when an application is submitted that is lacking an appropriate sign-off, to not issue an approval or a permit without that signature. The building department in this particular case, we did everything the building department asked for. Again, it was not done by the applicant, it was done by the applicant's demolition company, which was unaware of a wetlands application that was pending. They worked with the building department on a number, what do we need? What else do we need? What do we need to do? Who do we need to talk to? What sign-offs do we need? And everything the building department asked them to do or told them they needed to do, they did. At no point did the building department ever say, you need to go see Kelly Kerrigan and get a sign-off, or we're forwarding this to Kelly Kerrigan. And when the final application was submitted with all the conditions that the building department imposed, the building department said, oh, you're all set. This is a perfect application. Here's your permit.
But again, my point is, physically at the site, before a shovel takes place to do anything, normally you have a site supervision coordinator who makes sure before that shovel starts digging, all the proper paperwork he's got in his hand that says, sign off over here, sign off over here, sign off over here. I'm just asking the question. Normally, from my past experience, in major applications like that, in any construction, you have a site supervisor that's in charge of everything, and he has to make sure, or she has to make sure, that everything, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. I mean, I don't understand.
Well, if all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and the issuing authority says you have crossed all the T's and dotted all of the I's, and you ask, okay, is there anything else we need, which is what that person would do, and the building department says, nope, you're all set, the due diligence was followed, the building department failed to get or failed to inform or should never have issued the permit on an incomplete application. When the contractor was asking the questions, is there anything else we need? And the answer is no.
And I won't continue with this, but I know wherever somebody is actually sitting in a building, they're not actually at the site when things start to happen. Normally, you have to have management. You need somebody
No, there was people on site.
But, no, there's somebody in charge on site.
Yes.
Okay. They're the ones that have to make sure
That you have a permit.
that they have a copy of the paperwork. That's all I'm saying. That's all.
They had a copy of the permit to demolish.
Wrap this up. There's no permit.
No, in order to have gotten the permit, they had to have had a completed application.
Person should have known, okay, that there was a pending wetlands and he should have said, stop, you can't do anything until we get approval from the wetland.
All right, I don't know what happened. I don't think there was an intent, but it doesn't matter. It did happen. So I'm going to poll the commissioners. We could find the applicant. So we could start at 1,000. We're going to go, if you want to drift downward, I think we should, because I really don't think there was an intent. And our building department bears some responsibility. I'm sorry. That's my opinion.
Could I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You're telling me that there was no sign-off on it. This happened to me, too. I was in plumbing for years, and I took a plumbing permit, but there was no building permit. But they still gave me the plumbing permit. But they stopped it. They stopped the work order. So I should have asked for that because I lost time. That was my fault.
But when you got the plumbing permit,
Yes.
did you begin the plumbing work?
Oh, yeah, but there was no building permit, so they put a stop work order.
But if they had not put a stop work order on it, would you have completed the plumbing work?
Well, yes.
Okay, so if no one told the demolition contractor...
That was my fault, they told me, and it was. And it was. I should have never started without the building permit, and you should have asked for it. That's what
But
they
we
told
don't
me.
have a building permit yet.
No, you don't. No.
The only thing we were looking for was a demolition
Right,
permit.
but you didn't have a sign-off from the wetlands.
I understand that. And when we asked if we needed anything else, any other sign-offs, we were told no.
Well, who told you you didn't need a sign-off from the wetlands, or they were told you?
They couldn't, they should not have issued the permit without a sign-off.
Well, this
And when we
common.
asked, and again, this was a 6-week process while the application was pending.
I understand it.
And was available to everybody in town, including the building department, because they get notice of all of these things. They never told anyone that the Wetlands Commission needed, or the Wetlands Administrator.
You
needed-
assumed that there was a sign-off for the wetlands. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm not saying we assumed. The building department never either checked, because there was no signature, or
Someone
never
is-
asked, or never said one was needed.
I understand it. Someone assumed that everything was in proper order, and there was a sign-off on it.
No, I don't know if they assumed there was, because her signature is not on an application
Well, then
anywhere.
they shouldn't have assumed it.
Right.
But it happened, so
Right.
now it has to be resolved.
Yes, and there's two parts to this thing here. We're going to have a motion to accept this application, which is...
You already accepted it last month.
I mean, to vote on it, to approve it, which is, everything else is in order. But I'm going to ask the commission, do you think the applicant should be fined? The maximum is $1,000. You want to deviate down from that, it's fine. I believe we should. The intent wasn't there in my mind, but it's up to the commission. Yes, Dr. Chess.
So the issue is really around responsibility from my perspective. So everyone works in silos. So the building department was working in their silo, and they issued that, and they didn't look around and say, yeah, you've got everything you need because you met all of our requirements. But did the applicant know? Because the applicant ultimately is the one responsible for coordinating this, and the applicant had to know that they were waiting for wetlands.
Well, obviously, the applicant knew they were here, but the applicant was not the person who applied for the...
I understand, but
Right.
the applicant essentially is the one who then allows the demolition company to come in and go do it, because he's paying the bill. So the applicant has that responsibility to go back to the wetlands committee, and should know that, they were paying.
I'm not disagreeing with you. And and please don't take this to mean that, or my discussion this evening, that my client is innocent in this. They're not. They were fully aware that they were here at Wetlands and there was an application pending. The contractor was not aware of that.
Right.
Clearly, the building department should have probably been aware of it, and clearly the building department, in reviewing the application, like you do on a regular basis when you review, you check to make sure all the boxes are checked. You know, if I go to zoning and file an application and Kelly's signature is not on it, Jay or Dan is going to say to me, you got to go get Kelly's signature because it's not on here and it's required. For whatever reason, Brian didn't do that. And again, everybody gets busy, everybody gets caught up, we all got a lot of stuff going. It was missed. And at the end of the day, I think there's responsibility that goes around to more than just my client and more to just Brian. But I think you have to admit and you have to agree that there is responsibility on the town.
Do you have a copy of the demolition permit?
Yes.
Do you have it tonight? Because I have online access to the permits and there's no sign off for me on it. There's no opportunity for me to sign off.
This is just the permit.
Okay, so you.
I don't have the application.
Okay, because I can see it online and there's no spot for inland wetlands, just so that you're aware.
But you would normally sign off on it, on a
No.
demolition permit?
No, I've never signed off on a demolition permit.
No.
That's why I'm asking you. I'd like to see what form you use because I don't have a sign off on this, so.
All right, let's,
We're not here for a building permit, we're here for inland wetlands.
right, all right, let's take this one step at a time. I need a motion to approve. Approval for what they're doing.
Mo-
Because irregardless of what happened, we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Make a motion.
Second?
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, you got your approval. Now, question is, do you think the applicant should be fined?
Well, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it should be a full fine
know how
because
it
the
is.
applicant himself is responsible. And you know, and I don't think $1,000 is a large penalty in this situation.
So you're making a motion to fine him for $1,000, Dr. Chess?
Yes.
You got a
Chair,
second?
well, again, I have a question too. I'd like to propose that not only the applicant be fined, but if the property is now unstable for whatever reasons, I don't think anything should continue until we find out exactly in the realm of the paperwork what has taken place. I'd like to add that in.
Has anyone stabilized it, or?
We still have to get a zoning approval, so we don't have an approval to do anything there other than under the demolition permit to demo the building and the canopy.
All right, well, we have a motion, we have a second for the $1,000 fine. So, all in favor?
aye.
Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you, Attorney Proto.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, and have a good Christmas.
Thank you. I mean, I've been fined. You know, I started jobs without a permit, I got fined. Yeah. So I guess the town's gonna fine them.
All right, so that's resolved.
Yeah. And they can continue as long as Kelly approves.
All right, what are we doing next?
Oh, I don't know.
2022-9, construction of a single-family dwelling. Kelly, what do you have to add to that?
So Barry Knott is representing this application, and he currently has the flu, so he could not make it, but we're only potentially accepting this application. But I wanted to make the commission aware that the applicant removed all of the trees from this property without the benefit of a permit over the summer. And they initially filed this application over the summer and then withdrew before it came before you folks. And not only did they remove all the trees without a permit, but they did so after I told them that they could not remove the trees without a permit. So, so there is, no formal violation was put on the applicant because they were concurrently about to apply for an application at that time, and then it got kind of pushed aside. So I just wanted to make the commission aware that there is a violation aspect to this one as well.
Thank you. So all we could do is accept this application tonight. So someone make a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Mr. Waite, second by Joe Karibski. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, staff report.
All right, so all of you should have received a copy of the inland wetland regulations. which when I put them in your packet, I realized that some of you may, I don't even know if you have seen these before, but they are available online. But they have not been updated since 2012, I believe, and that is 10 years ago. So there's a lot of things, a lot of room for improvement, I think, especially as it relates to our process for violations. I think things are a little murky there, and I think we could use some clarification as well as perhaps updating our fee schedule. So I want to say it was early 2021. This commission formed a subcommittee to review the bylaws, and that was successful. I think, yeah, Angela, you were on that. So I would like to recommend that this commission now pick apart the regulations and make any updates as needed, and perhaps form a subcommittee as well. A review on individual basis? I think with the bylaws, if I recall correctly, everyone reviewed and gave me comments as they felt necessary, and then the subcommittee is really what kind of honed in, and then we distributed the edited version for review and comment, and then approval from there, if I recall correctly.
That's exactly what we did on the Waterfront Commission also. So why don't we look at these and then make your comments, and next meeting, we could form a subcommittee, if that's okay. All right?
Okay,
Good.
so feel free to mark everything up, and if you guys have any questions on anything, feel free to contact me, and we can talk through it as well. Yeah, Pat and I have to get back together on Lindquist Drive. I feel bad we've been punting this up, but I think we're at a good spot to actually get that going now that we have the slug of work that we've pushed through. So we have to work on that, and then only one application was filed from the last time we met, and that was 2022-22A, a deck, pool, and shed within the open review area at 473 Laughlin Road. And that's all I have. I just said that. Sorry, I just skipped it.
Kelly, I have a question. Do you have any idea what's coming up in January?
As far as new applications?
Yeah. I'm just trying to
Yeah,
plan things ahead.
all that I'm aware of, that is what we have right now. I don't
Okay.
have, I mean, we'll have, James Farm Road should be on there. And I think perhaps, I mean, that's been lingering for quite some time, so I don't know how long the commission is gonna entertain us, or entertain the violator asking for another month and another month and another month. I mean, it's been over a year at this point. And I think it's been before the commission for about 3 months now, I wanna say. So I think we just need to toughen up a little bit, maybe. So I think now that they've submitted something and I've been able to provide some staff comments, I think we really need to hold to that January meeting date, or really start hunkering down on some fines. Because I feel like they're just kind of pushing us around a little bit.
Okay, Commissioners Forum, anybody have anything to say? No? Yes, Joe?
I have something that I'd like to bring up pertaining to, in many of the applications, we've heard the word Caltech in regards to the subground stormwater retention systems. And we were told, at least I was told, Mr. Podolsky, who was one of the engineers, said that the system is set and forget. I remember that phrase. He's on record saying that. So I've been doing some research with this on Caltech, and I have right here some of the documents. It says the Caltech, for optimum functionality and longevity, Caltech recommends regular maintenance of the stormwater management systems. Caltech also provides maintenance guidelines. Said the following guidelines shall be adhered to for the operation and maintenance of the Caltech stormwater management system. They suggest that the owner keep a maintenance log, which shall include details of any events. The operation maintenance procedure shall be reviewed periodically, blah, blah, blah. They also have a scheduled maintenance schedule, what to be done at first, and then monthly inspections during the first year. And the inspections that they recommend cannot be done by just anybody, that it has to be done by an authorized person. There needs to be closed-circuit TV cameras that go in there. If that's not possible, then someone has to go down through a manhole. They need to check for gases. If there's any sediments or anything collected down there, it has to be properly disposed of. Also, Caltech does not do maintenance. They recommend that other providers do it. One of them is Connecticut Stormwater Authority, and they service in Fairfield County. Here's what they say. Like any utility, a stormwater drainage system needs regular maintenance to ensure that it's operational and efficient. They say that without regular maintenance, the system will eventually fail due to buildup and structural issues. Also, the town of Greenwich, here's what they have to say about this. Here's how they handle it. They say that the town of Greenwich requires that inspection and service be completed and the records and inspection from the service be maintained by the owners, and that this would be a part of the permit's condition of approval, and that the engineering, if there was ever any problems, any legitimate complaints, that the records would have to be provided to the town for inspection. Like, for example, like if any of the neighbors were getting water in their basements, if there was flooding or depressions in the area, or I would imagine if the wetlands is flooded or if it's drying up. Now, they also say that, so, you know, we have been signing off on a lot of these applications, just going by the assumption that these are set and forget. So that would mean that, and also Greenwich requires that the homeowners have to have a maintenance, have these regular inspections in perpetuity. So even if they sell the property, it has to extend to the new owners, and they have to carry it on. And I don't believe that we have been holding anyone accountable for ongoing maintenance, and that is vital. So
I agree. The only thing is, how do you compel them to do that?
it would be through legal processes.
Maybe on the deed, right?
It'd
Yeah.
have to be on the deed, right?
Yeah,
Attorney
it would
Sullivan?
be a condition of approval.
Of course, right.
And of course, there would have to be contracts.
No one's going to do that, what you said. In Greenwich, they'll do it because they have the money. In Stratford, these people are just buying houses. There's a big,
You don't even
I know
have
what you're
them-
saying. and I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And that's one way, I guess, you can hold that project up until they do have a,
All right.
But what Joe's, I think, talking about is once this development's in and this system's working, then what happens? How
It's
do you
over.
compel- It's over.
It's
You
over.
can't compel them to do anything.
yes.
All right. And it shouldn't be over.
Right.
Even the manufacturer
agree.
of the system says that it can't be over
I agree.
because it's essential to,
Yes,
you know, for the
yes.
functioning.
Oh, we're in all agreement with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But how do you make them stay, you
I
know?
think at a minimum, you could put it as a condition of approval.
Yeah.
So that if you did have a problem, then you could go back and say, no, you were supposed to be maintaining this, even if you know, even if it's not a perfect system. But, I mean, I think you have to think going forward, what are the first steps to take? I mean, you could certainly, if you had, you know, if you were doing a condo or something like, you know, like that, you could certainly put it on, you know, the homeowners association or
Right.
something like that. But with an individual property owner, I think at a minimum, you would put it as a condition of approval. on the approval, and then, if you did have a problem later on, at least you could rely on that.
You could reference it, right?
Yeah.
Because you will have a problem.
How expensive are the maintenance systems for, let's say, a single-family home? What would that set them back? Again, every home has to have insurance, have to have all kinds of stuff, so that's built into their mortgage, basically. So this can be maybe almost no different than that. So what is the number? Is it $1,000 a year? Is it $250 a year? Is it?
No,
The Caltech website also covers like cost of their different chambers, because they have a variety, and different ones would be used on different sites. So, but the numbers are out there. But this would be especially important, I think, in subdivisions, or very extensive projects like 99 Hawley, or Teakwood, Ronald Road, Broadbridge, Yeah.
Teakwood is a subdivision.
Yeah.
And how do you maintain it? How do you put that in the deed?
I don't know. But I think that, our charge is protecting the wetlands, and this is
Exactly.
all part of it.
So how do you do that?
can I say something about the finances? Because I've been through this a few times in my life. When you talk about insurance, the insurance for stuff like that is optional, okay? So any pipes going in or out of the house, okay, is optional. And then, again, the insurance really only covers what's on the property, but any pipage that connects to the city sewers, or town sewers in our case, is optional. You can buy it from Aquarian, you can buy it from companies, but again, it's not something when you buy the house, they say that this is covered under your insurance. And again, learn this the hard way. And again, the cost to dig those out can range into the thousands of dollars, up to easily $20,000. For somebody to have somebody come out, an excavator, because you're not only paying for the excavator, you're paying for police protection depending on where the house is. Okay, you have to have people, again, speaking of insurance, who are come in and insured and know what the heck they're doing. So, again, I agree with all this, but again, the hard part is, again, you can't force somebody to get the insurance.
I don't think it's a matter of insurance though, but if we can condition a deed restriction, a conservation easement, we condition that. So why couldn't we condition not a restriction, but an item on the deed that says you have to maintain this in accordance with the manufacturer's recommendations? And that way, if something happens, we could say, look at your deed, what are you doing?
Right. Did you do it or not? Well, you're responsible, because you
I think the question is, where's the deed? So in a subdivision, you could certainly do that, because you're going to have a developer and they're going to give out, subdivision deeds to a bunch of people. But what happens when you have an individual homeowner who comes in and is going to use this kind of product? I guess the other thing is it would encourage people to use something that is lower maintenance. So if it is a high maintenance item, you might try to find something that is not high maintenance, as a substitute for what you're gonna put, in your project. But you definitely could condition the permit. The question, if you condition the deed, the town can't really enforce that, so you have to sort of find something that's enforceable by the town, and that would really be a condition of the, permit, and then it would be, in perpetuity, as you said, or, I was not aware that they were so high maintenance. It's good information to have.
Wouldn't you get into disclosure too when you go to sell? It feels to me like something you deal with your real estate agent, right? Like, I have to disclose that we built on, well, maybe we didn't build, but this property was a wetland or abutted a wetland, and there's this type of system installed. So I'm just saying, I don't know how we manage that, you know what I mean? Like, in terms of legally and whatnot. I think maybe a better analogy is septic, right? Like, you're going to have your septic system pumped, There's no way to hide that. But this, I feel like you could kind of just say, yeah, as far as I know, there's no asbestos. Yeah, as far as I know, it's fine. So it just, unless it's in a deed, then it gets tricky and it gets all. And again, none of us are disagreeing that that's the right approach. I just don't know how we enforce it.
And as you heard their experts say, it's set and forget. Homeowners hear that, they think it goes in the ground, you're done, that's it.
I mean, I think maybe one of the things that we could do is as part of this regulation review, that we can put it on our list of to-dos and
Good
say,
idea.
okay, let's see what, you know, a Greenwich does, or, you know, another town does in order to make sure that maintenance, I mean, the objective is to have the maintenance happen, not just to say to somebody, you must do it, but to say, you know, this is what's gonna stop, this is what's gonna keep the system operational.
And I think it's, you know, it's imperative that the homeowner knows it's to their benefit to maintain it. Because if something goes wrong, they're the ones who are gonna be paying for it. You know, you gotta, you know, educate them too, because like I said, this guy said set and forget. And when you hear that, oh, good, I gotta do nothing. Right.
Yeah, I don't agree when each party has to maintain something that the rainwater's taken and the subdeveloper gets away with it. You have to make different provisions. They're not gonna do that. So either put storm drains in and have a pump up into the town sewers, or forget it.
I will say that per our stormwater permit, they can't do that. They have to retain the first inch of rainwater on site. But they could do an above-ground detention basin, but obviously that takes up space. That could be the yard where your kids play, so.
Yes, without all this little maintenance on
Yeah.
every home. Yeah, that's
Yep.
crazy.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful just to have some idea about the cost of this, right? If it's a $250 a year and you've got a $250,000 home, well, that's probably worthwhile, right? But if it's $5,000 a year, well, you may think differently about it. So, and if we're legislating this, then we should have some idea about what the cost is and the impact on a person.
I think that, you know, an inspection, you know, is going to cost so many dollars. But if they find something wrong, you know, if they find that there's a buildup of sedimentation or if there's a blockage somewhere, it's going to be more. But the inspections,
Not so
you
much
know.
for the inspection, it's for the maintenance.
Yeah.
So the whole idea would be to get a maintenance contract, just like
Yeah.
we do in many, many other aspects of our homes. And it's probably just a phone call to find out.
Because not everybody, that's his fault, that's her fault.
Yeah, but again, this isn't insurance, this is, again, upfront, saying I'm buying this maintenance, it covers X and Y. Many of us get from Aquarium, where we can buy the
Yes,
insurance.
yes, but there's a lot of people who don't do that.
So that's the gamble that they take.
Yes.
But so I think many of us are used to the idea of having to pay for prevention, and so that would be
Yes, that's excellent to do.
My
If-
question would be, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Would it be something, again, I'm just throwing this out there, something we could look into, would it be like when the town charges for like new sidewalks? In other words, like somebody could go around, check and inspect, and then the bill could be sent?
The town doesn't pay for charge for
Sidewalks? Okay, because we got a bill.
to, but.
Well,
That was just you.
that was just me, really? Because we were told, no, when we did the sidewalks, and we were getting a bill, I don't know if we ever got it. But-
No, once the tree lifts it up, it's on the town.
Well, if there's nothing else, I'll ask motion to adjournment. Second?
I have one question. I have to tap into Kelly's knowledge. What are the signs and what do you do if a wetlands is dying?
What do you mean is?
What I mean is, if there are signs of trees rotting, root systems rotting, just terrible conditions in a wetlands, and you happen to be a resident, okay, in that particular area, do you do you just let it go until it all falls down, or?
It
Yeah.
sounds like you're describing a change in hydrology, so I would want to look at the surrounding area and see, was there a new development, some change in some surface water or groundwater pattern? I would have to see the specific site, I think.
Okay.
Are you referencing a wetland in town?
Huh?
Are you referencing a wetland in town?
Not Stratford, no, Fairfield.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I just, my brother lives in Fairfield in an area in the back where it's called Knapp's Park, and they have a wetlands in the back. Now, as kids, it was flourishing. We used to ice skate back there. We used to do a lot of things. Now, I happen to notice a lot of the trees are dying. I mean, in that particular area surrounding it, there's really no new development. They're all older homes, but it's reaching the point where there's a lot of skunk cabbage in there. There's a lot of heavy mud.
So it sounds like it might be maybe silting in, and I would be curious what tree species were dying, like if there's a pathogen or disease issue, or if just,
To
again,
me, it looks like there's a disease
or
issue
if
back there.
the hydrology is changing and the species that are there can't handle that, the change in hydrology. It
Yeah.
sounds like it
Okay.
may
Do
be
people
silting.
dump their pool water back there? That's another thing.
Yeah, that's another
yeah.
thing to consider.
Yeah, I mean, when we were growing up years in that area, that used to be a sewage drain runoff into a pumping station, okay? And all that sediment.
Stormwater?
Huh?
Stormwater? Stormwater sewer?
Uh,
You're talking about sanitary?
I think it was more than just stormwater,
Okay.
okay? Because these were houses that were built in 1942 prior to the veterans coming home. So I guess they didn't have certain, sanitation.
They might have had a combined stormwater sewer system.
Yeah.
Some of
so,
them were combined.
I mean, we used to ice skate back there, but it was all frozen. But it was an area that I knew drainage was up here. It was coming this way, going into a drainage pipe, going down into a pumping station and pumped. So, but that's been there for years and years and years, okay?
Yeah, there may be, if there's some stormwater inputs, that might be why you can't ice skate too, because if there's applying road salts,
Okay.
it's not gonna freeze.
But I was just,
Yeah,
'cause-
interesting.
yeah.
I also did want to say, Dr. Chess, I did come up with a very high-level summary of my job, so I can send that around to the commission. It's not too detailed, but it's a
So,
little two-pager.
so, I had asked several times that with all the climate change, with all the things that hit Kelly's desk, and this used to be a 2.5, almost 3-person job, and now it's a 1-person job, that we review it. And we had all agreed to do so, and I'm leaving it to you to move forward with it. I'm not, again, I don't want to be seen as aggressive on this, but I really think that if we think that we need more help, then we should at least advocate for that and support you.
Right, and there is, have you folks heard of the NIP money? The Miniature Liquor Bottle Fund? So there's an excise tax, or I don't know if excise is the right word. So every nip sold in Stratford, there's a tax, and that
So
goes.
should we start drinking?
If you want, I mean, we already drink a lot, so we already have 60,000, I think, in that fund, so we already are drinking strongly in town, at least nips. And there has been some talk about funding. A lot of other municipalities are funding positions from that money. The focus has to be, of course, on reduction of pollution, specifically nip pollution or plastic pollution. But I know that there's been some talks about even if it's a part-time thing, so we'll see where that goes. But I can forward you all things that I've been working on for your review.
It would be helpful to have kind of what you've been working on and things that you liked or need to be working on, but maybe can't get to in a timely way, and so we see what's there. Again, at one point you told me there were like 2,000 emails that you hadn't been able to get to. Now, they probably all didn't have to be gotten to, but a certain portion of them you probably really wanted to, so.
Okay, made a motion to adjourn. We need a second.
Again, motion to adjourn. Merry
All in
Christmas.
favor? Aye. Everyone have a very good holiday, and we'll see you next month.